Hey YouTube, this is Johnny with some Wednesday wisdom for you. This week I've decided to share with you some thoughts I have on motivation, self-help literature, and self-discipline. George Carlin famously put people who read self-help books on his simple list of people who ought to be killed. There are many people who are sympathetic to this attitude, even if they aren't as acerbic about it as he was. I saw that bit the other day and wondered if his attitude was accurate, so I Googled around a bit. Unfortunately, there haven't been a lot of studies on the effectiveness of self-help literature or positive psychology, so it's really difficult to ascertain just how reasonable this viewpoint of what is, according to Forbes, an $11 billion a year industry. I find it fascinating that there's a kind of cavalier cynicism that these people that are attacking the self-help industry have. Carlin is not the only one. The author of the Forbes article was too. It's a pretty common thing to see and easily searchable. I'll post a link to the Forbes article in the description, by the way. But it almost seems as though attacking people for buying and selling hope or positivity, self-help stuff, it's like its own industry itself, too. I can't help but think that the common argument that if a person has to buy more than one of these books, they must not be working, I think that's a weak argument. Because it's true that life's not too complicated for those of us that are lucky enough not to be born into abject poverty or within the borders of authoritarian regimes. But don't forget, I mean, there's all these temptations and distractions and all kinds of things that are going on that keep us pursuing projects that we would really want to be engaged in if we weren't so distracted all the time. Think about it. Why do parents have to constantly watch their kids? It's because they're little kids and they're easily distracted and they're unself-aware and unself-disciplined. While most people do become more self-aware and disciplined as they age, but it's more of like a continuum thing. I mean, you just get more and more mature and older, and you slowly get better and better at it as you reinforce your good habits and try to get rid of your bad habits. So anyway, I think that if self-help literature does actually help people, then it would be more for that reason than any other. I think it seems reasonable that at least reminding yourself of what you should be doing is better than not doing anything at all, or like just watching TV or scrolling through Facebook or something. It could be that people who have not found any value in these kinds of books are just not using them in the right way, which is to simply help parent those of us who are already out of the house and need a little kick in the ass or reminder once in a while to keep ourselves going. Certainly a lot of that kind of stuff is gimmicky, and to me, I'm mostly an outsider to that kind of literature. It looks like a lot of woozy nonsense often. On the other hand, I have read a few books that have helped me improve my habits or give me good ideas for handling stress in my life that you would find in the self-help section. So anyway, my real point is not to go on about the self-help industry or defend it or attack it or anything, but to point out that the major thing that matters in life is doing what you need to do to keep yourself motivated in achieving your goals, including learning how to continue to strive even when you're in a state of demotivation. Some people seem to think that all you need to do is follow your passions, follow your dreams, but there's problems with this. I mean, what if you just aren't passionate about much? I mean, you still have to eat, you still have to work, you have to have a job. What if you're passionate about a lot of things, everything, so you can't settle on to anything? I mean, I'm kind of like that. It's very hard for me to just want to do one thing. There's something more important than passion, and that's discipline. And here's what I think. It's important to be disciplined about keeping yourself motivated. That's the whole key. People get motivated and then they let it wear off. And then they don't want to do whatever it is they were working on anymore. They start to feel too strongly like the immensity of the task that looms before them, and they break down and get off track, and then they feel guilty, and so on and on, in a productivity sapping death spiral. Then they wonder what happened and why the book or whatever they read didn't help them. I think the key is that, like food, water, air, sunlight, people have a natural need for inspiration to keep on keeping on. It's that simple. Even those things that we find most engaging are monotonous at times, especially when discipline and long-term activity is required to sustain them. Learning an instrument requires practicing scales. Learning to act requires practicing enunciation. Programming requires debugging and learning code and everything. Writing requires reading, research, and on and on. So no matter what the profession is or how long the person's been doing it, they can tell you about the part of jobs, their jobs that suck or are boring. They do them anyway. Sometimes the sucky parts overwhelm them and they quit, give up, or switch careers. But it's important to find the balance between gritting your teeth to overcome the natural stressors of doing anything that's worthwhile, or drowning in a self-imposed sorrow, which makes it impossible to get anything done. And it's very hard to give advice for this because I think it depends so much person to person on all these different factors. But I do think I can generalize this bit of advice for everybody. Be honest with yourself. Don't be a sucker, but do what you need to do to get done what needs to get done. And try to make sure that you know the difference between fatigue and misery, and which really applies in your life. Anyway, keep your wits about you. Peace.